in Haddington a while back ago, and I was just wondering if you would be able to pull data that would tell me who the players are in Haddington, what are the community stakeholders there, who has nonprofits there, who has perhaps media outlets. Is that the kind of thing that's available through this tool?
Right. Some of that is and some of it isn't, but some of it should be, right?
Okay.
A lot of it should be. Right now, let's see what we can find out about Haddington. So we go to, pardon me? Carroll Park. Okay, Carroll Park it is. No. There's a Haddington neighborhood.
Haddington is in West.
I told you we had to correct some things. Councilman Jones is actually.
And I was also interested in something that the
Carroll Park is a
Reinvestment
little
Fund
above.
has been interested in for a number of years, and that's the end of food deserts, including in Center City.
So let me start with what we know about Haddington, right? So as I said, the way to work this thing is basically you go up to the neighborhood tab, and then you look for your neighborhood, and you pluck it off the list, and it takes you right there on the map. If we were to look at some of the quality of life measures there, for example, we could look at housing demand. And Haddington, as you can see, is a place that's in the lower end of the middle, right? So what it means is there are some issues on housing demand in that area, as evidenced by the home prices, but equally as important, the percentage of homes that transacted and building permitting activity. What we learn, though, also, is that it's actually doing a good bit better on housing stability. So in other words, unlike some of the other places that we've looked at or that you will look at when you get the chance to play with the tool a bit, what you'll see is that on the stability measure, it's sort of sitting right there in the middle. And to the point that I made earlier on about how neighborhoods tend not to be undifferentiated, what you see is there's probably 3 or 4 different categories of that one variable right in there. So if I'm thinking about measures related to stability, I have a way to focus my efforts in a particular place. But you asked also about, other kinds of, what else do we know about that area? Well, we know about the schools, we know where the libraries are, we know where the rec centers are. We can also tell you where the community gardens are, and I'm going to show you the map in a moment. The map gets busy because a lot of these places have a lot of those places, right? Right now, the way you're looking at it, you'll see that the little blue squares represent the rec centers. You can click on that, and we'll find out that that's Shepherd Rec Center at 57th and Haverford. You can even get its phone number if you like. You can figure out what the schools are. You can figure out these little pluses represent the libraries. And so there's a public library at the Haverford Avenue branch. Mm-hmm. And we can learn a variety of other things about it. We know what bus lines, subway line, well, no subway there, but what bus lines, what trolley lines make their way through that neighborhood, if there are any bike lanes or bike racks. You will know whether or not there was CDBG that went into that area over the course of time. Right. And a little bit, you'll see a few of these little oddly shaped icons, a few right here. 3 different CDBG allocations over the last 3 years for different things. So that's the kinds of things that we know now. What we don't know and what we should know, I think, quite rightfully the way you express it is, do we know who all the neighborhood associations are, the ones that are real, the ones that are actually functioning? Do we know, are there a complement of nonprofits that exist out there, or near nonprofits, fiscally sponsored organizations that are doing all kinds of things from arts and culture to craft help to educational, whatever it is that they're doing. Those are the kinds of things that would be helpful to know. And those are the kinds of things that I think from your question, I'd like to sort of make sure that we drill those in, drill down on those and figure out how to get them in here.
If we'd wanted to know how to improve the literacy rate in that area and help people get GEDs, would there be a way of finding out who in that area does that work?
Right now, no, but if we had listings of those things, they could be incorporated.
Yeah. Real quick, Councilman Jones, Councilman Squilla wants to say something. He has to run, and we'll get Councilman Squilla and then Councilman Jones, who represents the area.
Yeah, I just want to say too, and thanks to Council President, this is, like Councilman Jones said, about a tool. And we, as council members, could use many tools in order to make decisions. One of the tools that we use, obviously, are the individuals in our district who call us or email us with their concerns. But this gives us actually data-driven data that we can look at. When you call, we could actually go and pinpoint your area, see what those issues are, and actually give people solid information of what's going on in and around their community. Whether it's a school issue, I don't have any good schools to go to, my school is failing, or whether it's a safety issue, my car's getting broken into all the time, and just give them hard data. And when we go through that information, whether we have to put more money, whether it's affordable housing or whether it's a commercial corridor that we need to really upgrade so that people have more facilities or more stores for them to go to in their neighborhoods. It's just something that gives us another tool to elaborate on the benefits that we could give to you. And without this information, a lot of times it's guessing, or what somebody tells you is the truth. Because you know, in any story, if somebody has one side of the story, somebody has the other side of the story, but neither of them probably right. So this actually helps us get that information and actually say, you know what, you're saying this is the case, but we're looking at some of the data, so maybe the data is there and you're saying it's a different story, so it will help us dig into that a little more before we react. And so this is just an avenue that we're going into, and without this information, it makes it more difficult for us to make a decision. And I think this is going to be a great asset to all members of council, and it also makes us understand other districts throughout the city and their plight and what they're going through, because different council members introduce different legislation, and sometimes it's hard for you to understand why, but then when you can actually see the data and numbers, it all makes sense. And so this is what will be a great advantage to have with all council and to getting us all on the same page with each other. And I do apologize for having to leave, but I have a community meeting at 7:30, and I don't want them to be waiting too long, or I won't be here tomorrow. So thank you.
I think I have the microphone here.
Councilman Jones who represents Haddington.
I'll be brief. Haddington is, first of all, where I was born. So I was born on the 300 block of Edgewood Street, which is in Haddington. Haddington was one of the most valued homeowner-oriented communities anywhere. The folk migrated from South Philly, North Philly, and came to that area to establish a life. Over time, we experienced something I got from Councilwoman Tasco when she raised the red flag about mortgage foreclosures. And we were hit heavy with a tidal wave of mortgage foreclosures, to the point where this council, not once, not twice, but 3 times, did a mortgage moratorium on foreclosures. Just, we're not gonna, until we get our arms around what's going on in our community, we're not just wholesale selling houses. So we went from a high degree of home ownership to a high degree of rental. And I love renters, that's okay, but a part of the instability factor is that when people move in, move out, they don't buy into certain norms of that community, and they're not there long enough to feel a part of. So that's those statistics we found out, and Council President Clark talked about the fact that we, through redistricting in that area, I lost maybe 5,000 citizens, just gone. For whatever reason. So what we know then, the same word for crisis in China is the same word for opportunity. And we're going to take the opportunity to build back that neighborhood. And there are other programs other than this that we're talking about how to marshal resources to address that. So we started, took the initiative of getting a city block. Councilwoman Blackwell has been the development queen on the south side of Market, but we have now picked up the mantle on the north side of Market, starting to develop affordable housing with a transit-oriented development theme. Because when you take assets like a L or subway and realize that they are assets and realize that I can build housing along that transit node and get people downtown in 12 minutes for $2.25, you start to understand what your value is and to whom. So when you start talking to the eds and meds, which happen to be in the 3rd district, and say, I can get your x-ray technician to work, rain, sleet, snow, or shine, in 2 minutes, you should pay the first month, last month of their rent to get them in that stable situation. So everything that's bad on here isn't permanently bad. You can figure a way how to plan your way out of some of those indexes. And that's why this is important.
Thank you, Councilman. Ms. Penny.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Penelope Giles. I'm the executive director, founder of the Francisville Neighborhood Development Corporation. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. And I realize that we're on the radio, so we have an audience that can't see what's going on here. And so I just wanted to, before I make some comments, just point out that it's a very diverse audience here. And this is the Philadelphia Community Sustainability Initiative, so I believe that all of us here are interested in sustainability. And a lot of us in this audience tonight are interested in how we are going to stay in the neighborhoods that are developing, that are revitalizing, getting better, and how we're going to stay. So I'm from Francisville, so for one thing, I like to get Ira back up on the stage and pull up that neighborhood index and pull up Francisville in your neighborhood thing, because I don't think it's there. So I what I want to say is that I believe that I want to thank Councilman Clark for one thing, for organizing this and for coming up with this, packaging this in such a way, and City Council, okay, because this is something that we're all concerned about. Our neighborhoods are revitalizing, and while we are opening up our doors and opening up our minds to our neighborhoods being better, we're shooting ourselves in the foot at the same time, because our property taxes threaten to push us out. I think that's the number one issue in terms of stopping the bleeding. So it's like a boat with all of these holes, but the biggest hole is the property tax. And that's the thing that I think as we move forward with this initiative and we go from neighborhood to neighborhood, that will be the resounding message, is that first we have to make sure people can stay in the neighborhoods that are revitalizing, and then we need to make sure that we can regain the value in the neighborhoods that are losing their value, because our current property tax system does that. So I don't want to take up too much time, because we only have till 8 o'clock, and I'm sure there are people in here that have other stuff that they want to say. So what I wanted to do was let everybody know here that for Francisville, we are looking at this problem proactively. So we're looking at land value tax as an alternative to the tax system that we have. Now, we're not saying that it's a magic bullet. We're not saying that it's going to solve all of the problems. We're saying that the current system that we've been using for decades does not work. It creates pockets of affluence, and it creates pockets of poverty, and that's not going to help us build a good Philadelphia. So we're looking at land value tax, and we're going to have a neighborhood conversation. And that conversation is going to culminate in a neighborhood vote. So I can't announce the date of that meeting yet, but it will be in January. And we're going to invite other communities. We're going to invite the media. We want to open up this conversation citywide so that we can look at how we can change our property tax system so that it's fair for everybody and we can create neighborhoods that are equitable and economically diverse and sustainable. So I hope that you all will be tuned in to that process because it's important to all of us. And thank you, Councilman, for this.
Thank you. Real quick, can we do two things? When you stand up to speak, can you just announce what community you're from? Because we are on the radio, so people that are listening need to have a sense of who's here and where you're from. And the second thing, because it's 7:30 already, and we promise we won't keep you too late, if we have questions, if we can kind of get to the questions so we can kind of move it along a little bit. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm from the North Penn Community Action Council, from 30th and Lehigh to Broad and Lehigh. It's nothing but rehab houses. We are scared to come out. I'm 73 years old, born and raised in Swamp Poodle. That's what it used to be called. It's now called a village. But originally, it was Swamp Poodle. I am tired. Our senior citizens do not come out. They don't want to come out. Start from 33rd Street and Lehigh and work yourself down to Broad Street. On both sides of the street. That's what you got. Drug houses. I don't hate druggies, but it shouldn't take you 30 years to get off the habit.
Thank you. Thank you. I actually had that spirited conversation in the hallway, and I insisted that it be shared with everyone come in the room. Real quick, with respect to the Francisville, and there are a number of other areas that have significant concerns about increased values in properties, which is a good thing, and the neighborhoods are being built up, but there are longtime residents that are somewhat concerned about the end game as it relates to their ability to continue to live in the neighborhood. And last year, actually the year before last, when the administration wanted to move ahead with the AVI initiative, the full value, and members of council were reluctant to proceed because they were concerned about that, this being a city of neighborhoods. So it's council unanimously actually worked with this lady right here, State Representative Parker, and Senator Williams with the state to get authorization from legislation to allow us to delay the implementation of AVI until we can be in a position where we actually got values, and we also were able to get authorization to implement the homestead program, which is a real estate tax protection measure, and we were able to put in place the LOOP programs, the long-term owner-occupant program. So we would not move ahead because of that concern until we got that authorization to enact that local legislation. But those are the kind of things that we need to be in. When I talk about legislative priorities, that's what we need to talk about as we move ahead and rebuild our communities.
Council President,
Yes, Councilman Johnson.
and I just want to say, just for the record, just last week, we just passed an extension for the LOOP program for 2015, and so if you didn't get a chance to sign up to participate in the long-time owner occupants program, you have until February of next year.
All right, thank you, Councilman. Councilman Johnson and Councilman Squilla have been the most aggressive because of some of the neighbors that they represent and making sure that measures are in place to ensure that long-term residents continue to be able to stay in neighborhoods. Mr. Carter, how are we going to handle them? All right, so everybody has their hand up. If we can kind of have a little sense of somebody being in charge of that. Right now, yes, ma'am, over here.
Good evening. My name's Corinthia Johnson, and I know most of the city council people. Hello, everybody, and thank you for inviting me. My issue is that I am from Yorktown, North Broad Street, and we have Temple University, and I'm sure everybody's heard a lot about that area. I'm wondering, you have a lot of data there, but we're not getting any results where we're at. We need so many things, especially in the area that I live in for the senior citizens, because it's so, I've called and called. That's why I'm a little hoarse. But I've called and called and called and called without any results about the parking issues, about the street lights. It's so dark in Yorktown I mean, and I know karate, and I'm afraid to go outside. So anytime it gets that intense, where, you know, we have security cameras up, but we need lighting, and I've been to other parts of the city. I worked for the state representative in South Philly. It's getting gorgeous. They have lights, they have so many things, but I'm just wondering, how do we do petitions, or where are you getting your information from, and how are we going to get results in our area? I mean, we have all the cul-de-sacs that are dark. They could be lit up with some park area, and it's just getting redundant, and I don't know what to do. So I don't know where you're getting your information from, but we need help in Temple University. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm very familiar, obviously, we had actually just had a meeting about a month ago about some of the challenges in Yorktown and surrounding area as it relates to students and other things. The issue with respects to additional lighting in neighborhoods, additional security in neighborhoods is actually a part of the budget process, and that's what will help us determine as we adopt our capital budget, because that's the long term. That capital budget determines where we put lights, new lights, infrastructure, operating budget determines where we may deploy police and other things that can support what's going on over there. And one of the other things, and actually 3 of the council members here actually have districts that we have these opportunity zones that as we develop those neighborhoods, we want to make sure that we do it in a way that reflects a balanced nature. Temple University area is one of those, and you'll see it in the other book as a follow-up. As I hear you now, and I don't know if we are able to do this because of the reoccurring nature of 311 calls. Some people say 311 doesn't work, but it is a tool in place. So the question is, can there be some ability to access 311 data for those kind of city requests and have that on the tool so you can get a sense of where the most calls come in as a result? As an example for it, we can do that. So, okay, so it sounds like if we get a lot of calls about inadequate lighting or whatever, then we can incorporate 311 data into the tool. So now as we make those decisions, we'll know those kind of challenges. With respect to Yorktown in particular, we can talk about that, you know, because I know the area and I represent that. Okay. All right, thank you.
Hello. I'm kind of short. My name is Kim Smith. I'm from South Philadelphia Epic Stakeholders Group in South Philadelphia, Councilman Johnson's district. And the question that I have is that we keep hearing the mention of affordable housing, but the current formula for affordable housing renders the new developments unaffordable to me and most of the people that live in my community that have been in the community for years. And is there a way that that formula can be revised so that it can be actually affordable? That's number one. And number two, all the new development and the business owners and the people that are coming into the community, is there a way to make them be accountable to the school district or to the schools in the community to build up the schools? Because right now they're closing the schools and moving everybody out, but people are